Most people with kidney disease feel completely fine right up until the day they're told it's already advanced. No pain, no burning, no blood in the urine, nothing that feels urgent, and that false sense of safety is exactly what makes this so dangerous. I'm Dr. Richard Hale, and I've watched this happen again and again. People who believe they're doing everything right. They eat clean, avoid salt, keep their blood sugar normal, stay active, and still end up shocked by a diagnosis they never saw coming. The kidneys don't scream when they're in trouble. They stay quiet, and that silence costs people years of their health. Often the first clue isn't a symptom at all. It's something small, socks leaving deeper marks than usual, ankles looking slightly puffy at night. Not painful, not dramatic, easy to explain away. And while life goes on, silent damage is already underway. Here's what most Americans are never clearly told: kidney disease rarely begins with pain. It begins with pressure, chronic invisible pressure inside your blood vessels, especially from high blood pressure. You may not even know you have. That pressure hits your kidneys every single day, damaging tiny filtration units called nephrons. And once those nephrons are gone, they are gone for good. By the time blood tests finally raise red flags, many people have already lost a significant portion of their kidney function without ever feeling sick. That's what makes this condition so unforgiving, and why waiting for symptoms is a mistake. But here's the part that matters most. This process can be slowed. In many cases, it can be dramatically slowed. And one of the most powerful tools isn't a new medication, it's what you eat every single day. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 10 specific foods that research shows can relax blood vessels, lower internal kidney pressure, and protect your remaining nephrons before permanent damage sets in. These aren't exotic supplements or extreme diets. They're everyday foods with effects most people underestimate. And if you're thinking, this doesn't apply to me, that's exactly why you need to keep listening. The first food that consistently shows up in people who protect their kidneys long-term isn't exotic, expensive, or trendy. It's cooked leafy greens, especially spinach, Swiss chard, and beet greens. And before you scroll past thinking you already know this, let me explain why this matters far more than most people realize. I once worked with a patient who did everything right on paper. Low salt, no diabetes, regular checkups. But his blood pressure stayed just slightly elevated for years. Nothing dramatic, nothing that felt urgent. What changed wasn't a new medication. It was adding cooked leafy greens to his daily meals. Within months, his blood pressure readings softened not sharply, but steadily. And that steady change mattered. Here's the science behind it. Leafy greens are rich in natural nitrates, magnesium, and potassium. In your body, those nitrates convert into nitric oxide, a molecule that relaxes blood vessels and lowers resistance inside them. When blood vessels relax, pressure inside the kidney's filtration units drops, and that directly slows nephron loss. Studies show improved endothelial function and better blood flow when nitrate-rich vegetables are consumed regularly, especially in people with hypertension. Cooking these greens is critical. Cooking reduces oxalates, which lowers kidney stone risk, while preserving the minerals that protect blood vessels. Juicing, on the other hand, concentrates oxalates and removes fiber, something your kidneys don't need more of. So this isn't about eating more vegetables in general. It's about choosing vegetables that actively reduce internal pressure, the kind you can't feel, but your kidneys absorb every day. But here's the part most people miss. Relaxing blood vessels is only one layer of protection, because even if pressure drops, something else can quietly undo that progress, especially when protein enters the picture. After you understand how leafy greens lower pressure inside the kidneys, the next question becomes unavoidable. What about protein? Because this is where most people panic and where many unknowingly accelerate kidney damage. For years, protein has been painted as the villain, but the truth is more uncomfortable than that. It's not protein itself. It's the type of protein and the metabolic burden it creates. I remember a patient who proudly cut back on salt and sugar, but doubled down on animal protein because it was healthy. His labs looked fine at first, then slowly his kidney numbers began to drift. When we replaced part of that animal protein with beans and lentils, something unexpected happened. His blood pressure stabilized, inflammation markers improved, and kidney stress indicators eased not overnight, but consistently. Here's why. Beans and lentils deliver plant protein wrapped in fiber, potassium, magnesium, and alkaline compounds. That package matters. Unlike animal protein plant, protein does not spike intraglomerular pressure, the force inside your kidneys' filtering units. Instead, it calms it. Research shows diets higher in plant protein improve insulin sensitivity, reduce acid load, and feed gut bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, powerful anti-inflammatory molecules that directly protect kidney tissue. The National Kidney Foundation consistently recommends whole plant-based protein sources because they reduce systemic inflammation without overloading renal filtration. And that fiber, it traps toxins in the gut before they ever reach your bloodstream, lowering the burden your kidneys must filter every single day. So this isn't about eating less protein. It's about eating protein that works with your kidneys, not against them. But even when pressure is controlled and protein is chosen wisely, there's another silent trigger. Most people never connect to kidney damage. What happens to your blood pressure after you eat? Once protein is chosen wisely, there's still another problem. Most people never connect to kidney damage. What happens to your blood pressure after you eat? Even people with normal readings can experience sharp post-meal pressure spikes, and those repeated surges quietly wear down kidney filters over time. That's where oats become unexpectedly powerful. I had a patient who did everything right during the day, but always felt sluggish after breakfast. His blood pressure looked fine in the clinic, yet home readings showed small spikes after meals. When breakfast shifted to oats, not sugary cereal, not toast, but real oats, those spikes flattened out. His readings didn't just improve, they stabilized. And stability is what kidneys depend on. Here's why oats work differently. Oats contain beta-glucan, a soluble fiber, shown to lower LDL cholesterol and improve vascular elasticity. More importantly for kidneys, beta-glucan slows digestion and blunts post-meal blood pressure and blood sugar spikes. Research shows oats also reduce sympathetic nervous system overactivation, the fight-or-flight state that tightens blood vessels and raises internal pressure without you feeling a thing. There's another layer most people miss. Oats bind sodium in the gut, reducing how much actually enters your bloodstream. Less sodium absorption means less vascular tension and less stress inside the kidney's filtration units. Over time, that translates into smoother blood flow and fewer pressure shocks to fragile nephrons. This isn't about a trendy breakfast. It's about creating a metabolic buffer, one that protects kidneys during the most vulnerable moments of the day, right after you eat. But pressure control and digestion aren't the only threats kidneys face. Even when blood flow is stable, oxidative damage can still quietly destroy filtration cells unless something else steps in to defend them. Even when blood pressure is controlled and digestion is steady, kidneys face another quiet enemy. Most people never think about oxidative stress. Your kidneys filter an enormous volume of blood every single day, which means their cells are constantly exposed to free radicals. Over time, that oxidative damage slowly destroys filtration capacity. This is where berries become far more than just healthy fruit. I once worked with a patient whose labs were technically acceptable, but trending in the wrong direction year after year. No major red flags, just slow decline. When berries became a daily habit, especially blueberries and strawberries, something subtle but important changed. Inflammation markers improved, energy stabilized, and kidney numbers stopped drifting. Not dramatic, just steady. And with kidneys, steady matters. Here's the science. Berries are packed with polyphenols, especially anthocyanins, compounds shown in both human and animal studies to reduce oxidative stress inside kidney tissue. These compounds protect mitochondria, the energy centers inside kidney cells, and reduce microvascular inflammation that accelerates nephron loss. Unlike many fruits, most berries are relatively low in potassium and don't spike blood sugar, which is critical for protecting the kidney's filtration barrier. Research consistently links berry consumption with improved insulin sensitivity and reduced advanced glycation end products, the sticky molecules formed during high blood sugar states that damage kidney filters over time. Berries also support the gut-kidney axis by feeding beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, lowering systemic inflammation before toxins ever reach the kidneys. So berries aren't just antioxidants. They're metabolic stabilizers, vascular protectors, and quiet defenders of renal tissue. But oxidative stress is only part of the equation. There's a mineral most people underconsume, one that directly counteracts sodium and plays a decisive role in blood pressure control, and it shows up next in a place many people underestimate. After protecting kidney cells from oxidative damage, the next question becomes simple but critical. How do you keep blood pressure from creeping back up again? Because even the best antioxidants can't save nephrons if sodium keeps winning the daily tug-of-war inside your blood vessels. This is where potassium quietly changes everything, and sweet potatoes are one of the most underestimated sources. I remember a patient who was obsessed with cutting salt, but still struggled with borderline hypertension. Meals were low sodium, yet pressure stayed stubborn. When we added whole food potassium, especially sweet potatoes, a few times a week, his readings didn't just drop. They balanced. And that balance is what kidneys respond to. Here's the science. Potassium works as sodium's natural counterweight. At the level of the blood vessel and the nephron, potassium promotes sodium excretion, relaxes smooth muscle, and suppresses excess activation of the renin-angiotensin system, the same pathway many blood pressure medications target. Studies consistently show higher dietary potassium intake is associated with lower blood pressure and slower kidney function decline in people without advanced kidney failure. Sweet potatoes deliver potassium in a fiber-rich, low-acid package. That fiber slows absorption, prevents sudden electrolyte swings, and supports gut bacteria that further reduce inflammation. Unlike potassium supplements, potassium from whole foods enters the system, gently reducing the risk of sudden spikes for most people with functioning kidneys. This is an important distinction. Potassium isn't dangerous by default. It becomes dangerous only when kidney failure is already advanced. For everyone else, potassium deficiency quietly worsens vascular stiffness and raises internal kidney pressure over time. So sweet potatoes aren't just comfort food. They're vascular stabilizers that help keep sodium in check and pressure where it belongs. But mineral balance alone isn't enough, because there's another group of vegetables that doesn't just support blood pressure, it activates your body's internal defense systems at a genetic level. After mineral balance is restored and blood pressure finally begins to stabilize, there's still a deeper layer of protection most people never realize exists. Because even with perfect numbers on paper, kidney cells are constantly exposed to toxins, inflammation, and metabolic stress. This is where cruciferous vegetables quietly do something no other foods can. I once followed a patient whose blood pressure improved, diet cleaned up, and labs looked better, but his kidney function still felt fragile. What made the difference wasn't cutting more foods. It was adding broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage several times a week. Over time, inflammatory markers dropped, energy improved, and kidney decline slowed. Not because these vegetables detox in the trendy sense, but because they strengthen the body's own defenses from the inside out. Here's the science. Cruciferous vegetables contain glucosinolates, which convert into bioactive compounds like sulforaphane when chopped or chewed. Sulforaphane activates the NRF2 pathway, a master genetic switch that turns on antioxidant enzymes such as glutathione and superoxide dismutase. These enzymes neutralize toxins before they damage kidney cells and protect mitochondria from oxidative breakdown. Research shows activation of NRF2 reduces renal inflammation, improves endothelial function, and lowers the toxic burden kidneys must process every day. Unlike animal protein, cruciferous vegetables do this without increasing acid load, making them uniquely kidney-friendly. Their fiber also binds uremic toxins in the gut, reducing how much waste ever reaches the bloodstream. This isn't about cleansing. It's about resilience, making kidney cells stronger so everyday stressors don't slowly destroy them. But genetic protection alone still isn't the final piece, because even the strongest cells suffer when arteries stiffen over time. And that brings us to a small seed with outsized power over blood pressure. After strengthening kidney cells at a genetic level, there's still one physical force that quietly keeps damaging them if it's left unchecked: arterial stiffness. Because when arteries lose their flexibility, pressure doesn't dissipate smoothly. It slams forward straight into delicate kidney filters. This is where flax seeds punch far above their weight. I once worked with a patient whose diet looked nearly perfect on paper. Plenty of vegetables controlled sodium stable labs, but his systolic blood pressure stayed stubbornly high. The change that finally moved the needle wasn't another medication. It was one simple habit: a tablespoon of freshly ground flax seeds each day. Within weeks, his readings soften. Not dramatically, but consistently. And consistency is what protects kidneys. Here's why flax works. Flax seeds are rich in lignans and plant-based omega-3 fats compounds shown to reduce arterial stiffness and improve nitric oxide signaling. In clinical studies, just 1 to 2 tablespoons of ground flax daily lowered systolic blood pressure by several points, in effect comparable to some first-line blood pressure medications. Less stiffness means less force transmitted into the kidney's filtration units with every heartbeat. Flax also delivers soluble fiber that improves insulin sensitivity and lowers inflammation, both of which reduce microvascular stress inside the kidneys. But the key detail most people miss is this: flax must be ground. Whole seeds pass through undigested, offering little benefit. Ground flax becomes bioavailable, meaning your body can actually use it. This isn't about adding another superfood. It's about restoring elasticity to a system designed to pulse, not pound. Softer arteries mean gentler filtration, and gentler filtration preserves nephrons over time. But blood pressure control doesn't stop with structure alone. Because there's another food that helps people eat less salt without feeling deprived, and that shift can quietly protect kidneys in a powerful way. Once arterial pressure softens and salt intake finally begins to drop, there's still a practical problem. Most people struggle with food stops tasting good. And when food feels bland, salt quietly creeps back in. This is where mushrooms become a surprisingly powerful ally for kidney protection. I think of a patient who genuinely wanted to eat less sodium, but kept falling off track. Not because of cravings, because meals felt flat and unsatisfying. When mushrooms became a regular part of his cooking, something changed. He stopped reaching for the salt shaker without even trying. His blood pressure readings improved not because of willpower, but because his food finally worked with him instead of against him. Here's why mushrooms matter. They're naturally low in sodium, relatively rich in potassium, and contain beta-glucans, special fibers that modulate immune activity and reduce inflammation. Research shows beta-glucans improve insulin sensitivity and lower systemic inflammation, both of which reduce microvascular stress inside the kidneys. But mushrooms offer something else that numbers don't capture: umami. Umami activates taste receptors that signal satisfaction in the brain. When meals feel rich and complete, people naturally consume less salt. Less sodium means less vascular tension, less intraglomerular pressure, and less daily wear on kidney filters. That indirect effect alone can meaningfully slow kidney decline over time. Mushrooms also support the gut-kidney axis by feeding beneficial bacteria, which helps reduce circulating toxins like indoxyl sulfate compounds known to damage kidney tissue when they accumulate. So mushrooms don't just improve flavor, they quietly reduce the metabolic and toxic load kidneys must handle every day. This isn't about gourmet cooking. It's about making kidney-friendly eating sustainable in the real world. But lowering sodium and inflammation still isn't the full picture. Because there's another food that directly changes acid balance inside the body, and that shift can determine whether kidney damage accelerates or slows. Once sodium intake is under control and inflammation is quieter, there's another silent stress most people never connect to kidney damage: acid load. Not the kind you feel as heartburn, but the low-grade metabolic acidity your kidneys are forced to neutralize every single day. This is where citrus fruits quietly change the equation. I often think of a patient who ate what looked like a healthy diet, yet his kidney labs kept inching in the wrong direction. The missing piece wasn't another supplement. It was something simple: adding lemon and orange to meals instead of relying on sauces and processed flavorings. Over time, his urine chemistry shifted and kidney stress markers stabilized. Nothing dramatic, just less strain. Here's the science. Citrus fruits provide citrate, a compound that helps neutralize dietary acid and reduce the burden placed on the kidneys to buffer excess acidity. Citrate has also been shown to lower the risk of kidney stone formation by binding calcium in the urine. But the benefits don't stop there. Citrus fruits supply vitamin C and flavonoids that support endothelial health, improving blood flow, and reducing vascular inflammation inside the kidneys. Potassium in whole citrus fruits further supports blood pressure regulation, while the fiber slows sugar absorption and nourishes beneficial gut bacteria. That gut support matters because a healthier microbiome produces fewer uremic toxins, substances that kidneys would otherwise be forced to filter under already stressful conditions. The key word here is whole. Citrus juice concentrates sugar and removes fiber, changing the metabolic impact. Whole citrus works gently, steadily, and predictably. So citrus isn't just about taste or vitamin C. It's about shifting the internal environment so kidneys don't have to work against acid all day long. But even with pressure lowered, inflammation reduced, and acid balanced, there's one final factor that often determines whether kidneys stabilize or continue to decline. And it's something most people underestimate every single day. After pressure is lowered, inflammation quiets down, and acid balance improves. There's one final factor that often determines whether kidneys stabilize or continue to decline. And it's surprisingly simple: hydration that actually works with kidney physiology, not against it. This is where water-rich vegetables like cucumbers, zucchini, and celery quietly make a decisive difference. I've seen patients drink plenty of water all day and still struggle with kidney stress. The issue wasn't quantity, it was timing and mineral dilution. When meals began to include water-rich vegetables instead of relying on plain fluids alone, swelling eased, urine flow improved, and pressure inside the kidneys softened. Again, nothing dramatic, just steady relief. Here's the science. Water-rich vegetables provide structured hydration water delivered alongside potassium, magnesium, and fiber. This combination lowers vasopressin levels, the hormone that concentrates urine, and increases pressure inside the kidneys. Lower vasopressin means gentler filtration and less chronic strain on nephrons. Research links adequate hydration with slower progression of chronic kidney disease, especially when hydration comes from foods rather than excessive fluid loading. These vegetables also dilute sodium concentration in meals without increasing acid load or protein burden. That matters because kidneys are most stressed after eating when they're forced to manage electrolytes, waste, and pressure all at once. Fiber from these vegetables further supports the gut-kidney axis, reducing toxin production before filtration even begins. This isn't about forcing water or chasing numbers. It's about giving kidneys what they need to filter efficiently without being overwhelmed meal by meal, day by day. And here's the moment most people miss. Kidney failure doesn't happen suddenly. It happens when small daily stresses add up unchecked. The question now isn't whether food matters, it's whether you're ready to change those daily signals before your kidneys run out of margin. If you've stayed with me until this point, I want you to hear this clearly: you haven't failed your kidneys. Most people were simply never taught what actually protects them. Kidney disease doesn't happen because of one bad meal or one missed workout. It happens quietly over years when small daily pressures go unnoticed. And the fact that you're here listening means you still have leverage. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start where it matters most: what you eat consistently, how your blood pressure behaves day after day, and whether your body is being supported instead of stressed. Pay attention to subtle signs. Swelling, fatigue, changes in urine, rising numbers that are still within range. These aren't reasons to panic. They're invitations to act early while your kidneys still have room to recover. If this video helped you understand your kidneys in a new way, please save it. Not just for today, but for the day months from now when motivation fades and reminders matter. And consider subscribing to the channel. I share evidence-based, practical medical guidance designed to help you protect your kidneys, your heart, and your long-term health without fear, hype, or extremes. New research is constantly emerging, and I'll continue breaking it down in a way that's clear, honest, and actually useful, especially for people who want to stay ahead of problems, not react to them too late. Most importantly, don't lose hope. Kidneys are resilient organs when they're supported early. Small, steady changes compound. Lower pressure, better nutrition, balanced minerals, and reduced inflammation can slow damage far more than most people realize. Your kidneys don't need perfection. They need consistency, awareness, and time. And as long as you're willing to listen to your body and make informed choices, you're not powerless in this story. Take care of yourself. Save this video. Subscribe for more trusted kidney health guidance. And remember, protecting your kidneys today protects your independence tomorrow.